Hello and welcome to the Jesus Witch podcast. I'm your host, Lena Elsaya Lee, also known as Lena the Jesus Witch on TikTok and Instagram. The Jesus Witch podcast is a show dedicated to opening the conversation about including Jesus in witchery practices. The goal of this podcast is to not be evangelical. The goal is to spread the love, light, truth, acceptance, and oneness that is Jesus Christ himself. Here at the Jesus Witch podcast, we believe all people are loved by God and all people are loved by Jesus. We believe in community and the power of fellowship. We believe in giving whatever you reasonably can to help your neighbor who's in need. And above all, we believe in the power of creating a relationship with Jesus that is authentic and unique to you. Join me for new episodes of the Jesus Witch podcast every single Monday, and be sure to subscribe to us on your favorite podcasting app. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Jesus Witch podcast. I'm your host, Lena Elsaya Lee, also known as Lena the Jesus Witch on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. This week on the show, I'm going to give you some advice for being a Spoonie witch. This episode I don't feel like is going to necessarily be Jesus Witch specific. Jesus is just a deity that I work with. Not just a deity I work with. Jesus is the deity I work with. But anyway, this episode's more going to be like just practical advice for Spoonie witches. Before we jump into our conversation about Spoonie witchery, I have a few housekeeping things that I want to share with you. First, I wanted to give you a quick reminder to subscribe to the Jesus Witch podcast on whatever podcasting platform you're currently listening to us on, and give us a rating of 5 stars. Doing that really helps get the word out about the show. It recommends it to other people, and that just helps the podcast in general, so I would really appreciate it. It would also be really awesome if you follow me on my social medias. Like I said before, I go by Lena the Jesus Witch on all platforms, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. I only have one account on each of them. Technically, I do have other accounts, but I don't use them at all. So until I get an actual second account up and running somewhere, I only have one account places. And just as a note and a reminder, I will never message you on any platform to solicit a reading from you or whatever. It's really hard for me to reply to DMs anyway. I'm notorious for leaving people unread. So if I can't reply to the DMs that I'm getting, dude, I am not messaging you to ask you for a tarot reading because I feel really called to read your cards and then charge you $50 for it. Firstly, my tarot readings, which we'll talk about those in a minute, they don't cost that much money. Second of all, no legit tarot reader is going to reach out to you like that, so just be mindful on the internets. I don't know why that was a little tangent I felt like going on today, but I'm going to leave it in here because I feel like it's important. It's really important to know if you're going to go get a tarot reading. This should be a podcast. We'll do a whole podcast about this. But if you're going to get a tarot reading from somebody, they shouldn't be messaging you saying, I feel called to read you, and then charge you money to do so. That's just really slimy. But anyway, follow me on the social medias, Lena the Jesus Witch on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Other than that, ways to help support the Jesus Witch podcast include subscribing to our Patreon, where you can get early and ad-free episodes of the podcast, as well as transcribed episodes. So they're all written out. So if I start talking really fast, it's easier to understand the content. On Patreon, I also do more Jesus Witch education, including sharing different tarot spreads, my Bible-based spells, and I even have tiers that include having a one-on-one session with me over Zoom each month, and spell casting circles where I send you all the ingredients to make the little spell, and we'll do that together, and it's so fun. But anyway, to find our Patreon link, you can click the link in the show notes page. All of the different ways to support us are in the show notes page. I also have an Etsy shop where I offer Bible-based spells, Jesus and Christian Witch mystery boxes, tarot readings that talk to Jesus, your inner child, Lilith readings, astrology readings, all the different things. And finally, there are links in the show notes page where you can simply send a donation to the show if you just want to contribute that way. And all the links for everything can be found in the show notes page. So now let's talk about some tips for Spoonie witches. And first, I feel like I should define what a Spoonie witch is. It's really simple. A Spoonie witch is a witch who simply has some sort of chronic illness, mental health issue, something that affects their energy chronically. The way that spoon theory was taught to me is that let's say a quote unquote normal person, which what the fuck's a normal person anyway? Your average Joe will have 10 spoons a day. And Each task maybe takes like 1 spoon, a half a spoon to do. It's like it doesn't take that much energy or effort to do said things. But then you have people who have like chronic illness or mental health issues, or whatever it may be, and it takes them significantly more spoons to do things, and they might just start the day with less spoons in general. So like, a person who considers themselves a spoonie may only start the day with like 7 spoons, and maybe some days they start with 5, maybe some days they start with 3, and then each task like takes, maybe one, feeding yourself breakfast that takes 2 spoons, or taking a shower that could be 3, and that could be like your whole day. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just makes it hard to execute specific tasks because of things that are going on in your body and in your mind, and that's okay. And today I just want to talk about some tips and tricks that I use as somebody with chronic illness and chronic pain and like very low energy, of how I get witchery done in an everyday format. As much as I would like to have one of those practices where I could have beautiful altars and, like change things all the time and be on top of shit 100% of the time and be one of those like witches you see on TikTok, I'm really not. I have chronic illness. I have chronic pain. To get out of the bed in the morning is a fucking task. So I just don't have the energy for those things, but that doesn't mean I'm any less of a witch than somebody who does. So I just want to talk about things that I do in my practice to still make my life magical, even if I have to stay more in the mundane side of things because of how my body is set up right now. I feel like this episode might be kind of similar to our 10 tips for broom closet witches, because I feel like broom closet witchery and spoonie witchery are similar in the sense that broom closet witchery, you're trying to keep things low key so that it's like hidden, but spoonie witchery, you're trying to keep things low key so that you're not exerting too much energy. So I feel like these are going to be kind of similar. So even if you want to go listen to the 10 tips for broom closet witches, I feel like that information could also be kind of applicable to this episode as well for spoonie witches. But anyway, so the first thing that I want to talk about is making mundane things magical. This is the easiest thing to do for spoonie witches because you have to do mundane things anyway to survive, so might as well put your witchery practice in them anyway. So like, firstly, making meals that have intentional ingredients. So like if you're gonna make pasta and you're gonna make like, tomato sauce. I make like really easy tomato sauce. I just take a can of tomatoes, I chop up like a thing of garlic, and then I put some basil in it, like the dried basil, and that's all I do. And and olive oil as well, and salt and pepper. Like gotta have the Italian seasonings in there as well. But anyways, like I just put very easy and simple ingredients into it, and every single one of those things in my tomato sauce is magical. Tomatoes are red, so you could use them for color magic. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. You could use salt for protection and for cleansing, pepper for, protection to add like a spice to your life. Basil adds abundance into your life. So like that whole thing, garlic is protective. It keeps away like energy vampires. You could add like any ingredient, if you want to add oregano into your sauce to bring, more health to your life. In the morning you're drinking a glass of water, squeeze like a lemon slice into that as well, because then you have like cleansing and purifying magical properties from the lemon. So you could use these different ingredients. Lavender, add lavender to your tea, or if you're going to bake cookies, add some dried lavender into the batter for some calmness. There's simple ways that you can make your food magical, and it doesn't have to be something super special and super like out of the way in order to be effective with your magic. And now a quick break from our show to talk about a few different ways you can help support the Jesus Witch podcast. One way you can help support the creation of the Jesus Witch podcast is by becoming a Patreon supporter of the show. Every supporter of the Jesus Witch podcast on Patreon gets access to our monthly community oracle card readings, as well as access to a secret Discord channel in the Jesus Witch Church. In that channel, you can leave any Jesus Witch questions or suggestions that you may have, and it's just a better place for us to connect as a Patreon community. We currently have 5 different Patreon tiers for you to choose from to help expand your knowledge on Jesus and Christian witchery. The first tier that we offer is the Mercury tier, and this provides written transcripts of each episode of the Jesus Witch podcast to make them more accessible and easier to take notes from. The next tier that we have is the Fool, and that provides early access to the Jesus Witch podcast as well as ad-free episodes. The following tier is the Magician tier, which helps to expand your Jesus Witch knowledge with tarot spreads to help you connect with the Abrahamic pantheon and monthly Bible-based spellbook pages. In the Hierophant tier, we go even further with Bible-based spell work. Each month, members of this tier get access to an additional Bible-based spellbook page. I also send you a mini spell kit every single month with the ingredients to cast your spell. With this tier, you also get access to a monthly spellcasting circle that happens over Zoom, where we cast the spell together, and it's a really fun time. Our final tier is the High Priestess tier. This tier gets everything from the previous tiers, as well as a one-on-one call with me over Zoom every single month to talk about your practice, where it's going, and what your goals are spiritually. Another way to help support the Jesus Witch podcast is by shopping at the Sun and Moon Jesus Witchery shop on Etsy. Over on my Etsy shop, I offer Talking to Jesus tarot readings, Christian Witch mystery boxes, Bible-based spell oils, astrology readings, and so much more. You can also help support the creation of the Jesus Witch podcast by sending a donation directly to my PayPal or Cash App. You can find the links to both of those or any of the other ways to help support the Jesus Witch podcast in the show notes page. And a quick reminder, please don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on whatever podcasting app you're currently listening to us on, and give us a rating of 5 stars because that helps to get the word out about the show. If you would like to connect with me further, be sure to join our free Discord group, The Jesus Witch Church, and give me a follow on TikTok and on Instagram at Lena the Jesus Witch. Now let's go back to our show. The next thing that I wrote is using your showers for spell work. We talk more about this in our water magic episode of the Jesus Witch podcast, which I recently did. So I will put the link for that in the show notes page. But showers are really easy to do magic. And water has memory. Water is a magical tool. It comes from the earth. It's connected to the divine feminine. So if you're taking a shower, just talking your intentions into the shower. I use my showers to let go of things. I use my showers to manifest. I use my showers, obviously, to cleanse, to purify. Sometimes I just use those showers as venting sessions in order to cleanse and purify myself of these more hateful and bitter emotions that I hold. Because, things have happened to me in my life. I'm sure things have happened to you, and everybody holds a grudge to some extent, but one thing that really helps me let go of that is telling it to my shower. I know that sounds really crazy, but I feel like I'm cleaning myself off of that, and I don't have to hold that bitter root as much because I'm giving it to the water. I'm giving it back to the divine feminine. I'm giving it back, to God and to source by just letting it go with my water, letting it circle down the drain and saying, adios, amigo, I don't need to deal with you anymore. I mean, obviously, healing is a process, so, I'm gonna have to deal with it again, but you know what I'm saying. Anyway, I like using showers for spell work. You could also use your showers for spell work in the sense of, the products that you use. So I use a unscented conditioner, and what I like to do is, depending on my mood for the month, I will put a different essential oil into my conditioner in order to give it a different magical property. So one of the things that I really like to do is use my Protected by Self-Love oil, and I put that in my conditioner, and one, it makes it smell really good, and two, I have all those magical properties from Protected by Self-Love, which is it's a protective oil. It helps encourage self-love, self-peace. It helps encourage a connection with Jesus and with spirit in general. I also like it because practical reasons, it has clove in it, and it has lavender in it, which both are really good for your hair and hair growth, and cinnamon's also in there, and cinnamon's good for stimulating hair growth because it gets your scalp nice and hot. So as long as you massage it in, all that good stuff. So you can use your products that you have in your shower for magical purposes as well. So it could be a double whammy there. So kind of piggybacking off of what I was saying with shower magic and how you can use soaps and conditioners with the magical properties because of their ingredients, you could also use cleaning products with magical ingredients. So my husband and I use Thieves Household Cleaner, and inside of there is cinnamon and clove. Cinnamon's good for abundance. Clove is protective. There's also lemon in there, which is good for cleansing and purifying the space. We also will use vinegar. Vinegar is really good. I feel like vinegar is really good for keeping away energy vampires and keeping things energetically in check because it's such a pungent and in your face kind of smell. It's very purifying for me. So yeah, we basically use all cleaning products that have some sort of magical property in them based on their ingredient. So you could get like a lemon scented cleaner to help purify your house. You could do lavender for calming. You could do grapefruit for like beautifying and attraction, whatever it may be. You could find a cleaning product that has some sort of like magical property in it because of like the scent or the ingredients that are in them. The next thing you could do as a Spoonie witch that is really low effort and makes like mundane things magical is color magic. We have a whole episode of the Jesus Witch podcast about how to do color magic as a Jesus witch and why you should do it and like different colors and like associations. But simply, you can use color magic to adjust your mood, to adjust the way that people receive you, to adjust the way that you're perceived to other people, to influence like the outcome of situations and things like that. So color magic can be really, really, really beneficial. You could use it on your clothes, you could use it on your makeup, you could use it on your nail polish, you could use it on your shoes, on your accessories, whatever it is. There are so many different ways to use color magic. You can use color magic in your home by painting your house different colors, by having your sheets in your bed be different colors. So whatever it is, you can influence the space around you based on color magic. Another thing that I recommend that's more mundane for Spoonie witches is to use a tarot app instead of tarot cards. I know that there's like nothing like shuffling your own tarot cards and like connecting with that energy physically, but sometimes, I don't know, like for other people, but for me, because of my chronic pain and because of my injury, you probably know I was rear-ended by a drunk driver back in December of 2021, and I have nerve damage from it, and it's absolutely lovely. Um, but shuffling tarot cards sometimes can be really painful for me, just like that act and like moving my arms and that kind of like consistent pattern. So one thing that sometimes I like to do is use a tarot app if I need some sort of like quick guidance, or I really want to do a reading and I can't like physically get myself to pull my tarot cards out. Using an app helps. And I personally don't think that there's anything wrong or like less authentic about using a tarot app to read your tarot cards versus like using the cards themselves. I think if you're trying to connect with spirit, no matter what medium you're doing it at, they're going to connect with you, right? In Matthew, this is like pretty Jesus witchy advice here, but in Matthew, Jesus talks about like, you seek and you shall find, knock and the door shall be opened. So as long as you're looking for God, as long as you're asking God or Jesus questions, they're going to show up and answer them, whether it be through physical tarot cards or ones that are programmed on your phone. So the last more mundane tip that I have for you, and this is one that I use a lot, is writing your spells in your notes app versus like a regular notebook for dexterity purposes. And also, like, if you're an ADHD brain like me and you lose all your notebooks, I can't lose Google Drive. I can't lose it. I could go to Google Drive on any computer and I could find my spells there. Can't lose it. But a notebook that I wrote a spell down one time in, I'm a lose her. I'm 100% lose her. Personally, I do it more for dexterity purposes, writing, like physically sitting down and putting pen to paper. As much as I absolutely love doing it, it's my personal preferred method and medium of like communicating, thought to paper sort of thing, or thought to word, is through like physical writing. And like when I do spell work, I reserve my physical writing strength for, when I'm actually casting spells and when I'm actually like writing my intentions down. But other than that, I can't really write that much anymore. It really hurts me. Any kind of motion that like is repetitive, where my shoulders and my arms are moving a lot, really hurts me. So writing is something I can't do anymore unless I'm typing it. And I'm really grateful to live in a society where I can type it and I have such easy access to typing my spells out. So that's something that I do too for practical purposes and like just to, make magic easier for me as a person who is in chronic pain. Another thing that I like to do as a Spoonie witch is use music for spell work. I feel like music is like the easiest way to do spell work, and I did make an episode about like worship as a Jesus witch. I don't think I talked a lot about music in that episode, so I'm going to make another episode this season all about like worship as a Jesus witch and like how I really use music, because music's become a huge part of my practice over the past year, and especially as I realized how limited my mobility has become since my accident. Music's become like clutch. It's come in clutch for me in my practice. So I like to use music to create like playlists for different deities. So I have like a deity playlist for Asherah, for Lilith, for Jesus, for Venus, for God. Like I like to listen to these playlists if I'm trying to like get in the mood and connect to them. I have different playlists for like different moods. So I have a playlist that I call Crystals and Crying, and it's all like witchy but sad songs. I have another playlist I call it Winter Bitch because of a lyric in a song by Boy Genius. But anyway, that song is all that's an all like moody indie playlist. Like you get a lot of deep cuts in that playlist, songs that really make you think about your life and about the situations that you're living through and going through. And then I have like my eclectic pop playlists and like things that are more upbeat. So I'm trying to cast more of an upbeat spell. I'll go to them. So yeah, just creating playlists for different moods, different things that you want to bring in, like different attitudes you want to bring into your house. So I have like a whole like positive vibes playlist that have like more like uplifting lyrics and things that are like happy and like make you feel energetic and make you feel confident, sort of thing. Obviously like cathartic music to help work through bigger emotions and to do shadow work with. So like whatever kind of things you're feeling, putting like a playlist to that mood really helps. Or like if you're trying to adjust your mood, putting on a playlist that's the opposite mood of like where you are and having the intention of it like work magically on you, and those words kind of be spells. You can also use specific songs for spell work, and I do have like a whole post on Patreon where I share how I specifically do this and how I charm songs into being spells for me. But like songs like Karma by Taylor Swift, that is a Justice Magic song. I use that in Justice Magic and Witchery. I have another song that I use because like I really want to move within the next 5 years, so I enchanted that song to be like my moving song. And like if I listen to that, like I fantasize about moving and like where we're gonna move to and like the life that I want to create in our new space. So that's like another thing that I like to do. I used to charge my money bowls with the song Money by Cardi B. Now I charge it with Midnight Rain by Taylor Swift just because I really like that song and I wanted to use it in a spell. And it works for me for like weird, convoluted reasons. So it works for me, and that's all that matters. For like my husband, if I want to feel more close to him, if we want to do magic together, I've like enchanted Call It What You Want by her. It's Nice to Have a Friend is also one of our like enchanted songs. So it's really like thinking about what kind of mood you want to be in and like what kind of actions you want to be done as a result of these songs and as a result of you listening to this song. Another one, and I'm sorry I keep using Taylor Swift. It's just like her discography's in my head, and when I talk about spell work songs, hers are so easy because she's so lyrical. And even if you're not using the song for like exactly what it means or exactly what she intended the song to mean, and you use it in your own way, it's just so lyrical and like so well written that the message gets across very clearly. But another one that I use from her is I Bet You Think About Me. And anytime I think about that song or I listen to that song, I intend for the person who rear-ended me, the drunk driver, to think about that night and think about what happened and their actions in there, and be inspired to change. I personally don't listen to that song a lot because it is kind of heavy for me to listen to, but it is a spell. It's a song that I've enchanted for being a spell. So those are just a couple of examples of how you could use music as spell work, and how I use music as spell work. But if you would like to see like how I enchant my songs, I will leave the Grimoire page that's on Patreon linked in the show notes page to that. So another easy thing to do as a Spoonie witch is to use the energy of planetary days. If you didn't know, each day of the week is ruled by a different planet. So you can use the meanings of each of these planets for your magic and to just like arrange your day around and like do a specific task that reminds you of that planet. And it can be super low energy and just a quick way to honor magic and honor the universe and, honor creation, while also not disrupting your routine and your schedule too much. Monday is ruled by the moon. Moon is all about relaxation, nurturing, fertility, self-care, and rest. Tuesday is ruled by Mars, which is action, defense magic, karma, justice magic, warding, protection, and the divine masculine. Wednesday is ruled by Mercury, which is communication, community, and commerce. Thursday is ruled by Jupiter, which is luck, expansion, joy, wishes. Friday is ruled by Venus, which is love, money, luxury, and the divine feminine. Saturday is ruled by Saturn, which is discipline, work, tangible goals, ambition, and routine. And then finally, Sunday is ruled by the Sun, which is ego, personality, your higher self, and soul purpose. So doing magic or setting intentions each day based on like the energy of the planet could be useful in your practice, or even just like, if you have to do errands, let's say, and like for the whole week, okay, and you have to go grocery shopping, you need to go to the bank, and then you also need to go to the mall to get yourself a new pair of shoes because your old shoes broke, right? So Monday you could go food shopping because it's ruled by the moon, which is nurturing, and food is nourishing and nurturing for your body. On Thursday, you could go to the bank because Jupiter's all about abundance and the bank holds your abundance, your money. So go there on Thursday. On Friday, you need to get yourself a new pair of shoes. That's Venus's day. Venus rules over fashion and luxury and beauty. Go to the mall on Venus Day to get your new pair of shoes. And that way, you're not disrupting the things that you already need to do, but you're being intentional and doing them in a magical way. My final piece of advice for Spoonie witches, and I feel like this is the most important piece of advice that I'm going to tell you, is don't put pressure on yourself to do anything that you cannot energetically do. I know that big fancy spells are so much fun. I have one in my head that I've been wanting to cast for days, but I just haven't had the energy, haven't had the time, and I haven't had the opportunity to do it. So instead, I've been thinking about how I would cast it, the ingredients I want to use, what I want it to look like, the exact way I want it to look like. I've been envisioning it in my head. And I think that is just as good as sitting here and setting the whole thing up and lighting the candles and doing the do and doing the do. I shouldn't have said it that way. And doing the spell. I think that's just as effective because at the end of the day, like your prayer work, your praying, what you say, your words are spells. Humans are the only animals that have speech, that have communication in the way that we do. We have so many different languages. We have so many different words that we could put to the way that we're feeling, what we're thinking, what we want, what we desire, right? So just speaking our words and communicating them, even if it's just talking to a candle that you've lit with Jesus's face on it, or even just talking to an unlit picture of Jesus because, you don't have the energy to light your candles right now. That's okay. Even if you don't even have the picture of Jesus in front of you, that's okay too. Whatever kind of energy you have to put forth is okay as long as your intention is pure and you're really just trying to connect with spirit and get across your desires and the things that you need from them in order to make your spell work actually work. And also, devotion to a deity does not need to be fancy. You don't need to be going out to the store and constantly buying Jesus offerings. You don't have to be, making huge feasts to feed a plate of it to your deity and offer a plate of food to them. No. Devotion to a deity could simply be like, I promise Venus, I'm going to take care of my face. I'm going to take care of my skin. And I'm going to make sure that I wash my face, that I don't go to sleep with makeup on, that I use, acne oil on my face so I don't get huge breakouts, that I use acne oil on my back so I don't get huge breakouts, whatever. That's my devotion to her. I need to do that to myself anyway. But that's my devotion for her. For Paul, for St. Paul, one of my devotions for him is making sure that I take my, whatever supplements I need to take in order to feel a little bit less pain. That's my devotion for him. I can't fully remove this thorn out of my back, but I can limit it a little bit so that I can go and do the work that I need to do and get the message across that I need to get across for Christ. So that's one of the simple ways that I devote for him, right? For Asherah, one of the easiest ways that I do devotion for Asherah and God, honestly, one of the easiest ways I devote my life to them is taking care of my kids. I mean, obviously that's not easy. Kids are, it's not easy, but I take care of my kids. That's something I do. I take care of them. I worry about them. I think about their best intention, what their best opportunity would look like. I think about these things. And that's important. That's a way that I devote myself to my deities, is just by doing the things that I need to do in life. And that makes my life more magical just in the beginning, from the start. But it also makes sure that I'm able to have a practice that's working with the body that God gave me. So that's all I have for tips for Spoonie witches. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Jesus Witch podcast. I hope that these tips helped you, especially if you're somebody who also identifies as a Spoonie witch, to make magic more practical, more obtainable for you. Like I said in the beginning of the show, don't forget to subscribe to the Jesus Witch podcast on whatever podcasting platform you're currently listening to us on, and give us a rating of 5 stars because it helps get the word out about the show. If you want to help support the Jesus Witch podcast, you could do so by shopping at my Etsy shop, subscribing to us on Patreon, or sending a donation directly to the show. You can find the links to all of those different things and all of my social medias in the show notes page. So now for my favorite part of the show, our verse of the day. For today's verse of the day, we are doing Romans 5:5, which says, "And this hope will not lead us to disappointment, for we know how dearly God loves us, because he has given us the Holy Spirit to fill our hearts with his love." I really liked that verse. It was a really comforting verse to read, and I felt like I just wanted to share a more comforting verse today. So that's why I picked this one. So anyway, thank you so much for listening to this episode. I will see you next week for another one. Okay, cool. Bye.